As everyone knows, Wimbledon kicked off on Monday if a tennis tournament kicks off, serves off. Joining us on the line now for more is South African tennis player Jeff Coetzee, who is competing at Wimbledon, and he joins us on the phone from London. Morning to you, Jeff. How's the tournament gone?
Morning. Yeah, it's all going very well, thank you.
Tell me how South Africans have been doing at Wimbledon. We always feel, we've got the best weather in the world. We've got a lot of very good coaches, some good junior tennis. Not too many people coming through at the top. You're one of them, obviously. Kevin Anderson is another. But how are we doing at the moment? And at a tournament like this, what's your sense of our standing in the tennis world?
Well, at the moment, obviously, with Kevin being the head of South African sport, he's in the third round at Wimbledon today. And then Shani Skippers is playing Serena Williams. So in that regard, I think we're still okay, but there's no development coming through. There's no other players coming through because I think really we need a little bit more at home. We need to get the whole structure going, and that's what we need at home to bring some more players. And there is some juniors that is playing here, but it's just not enough compared to other countries.
Your own tournament and your own career as we are now, tell us a story about that.
Well, for me, it was a little different. I came from a development background, and, it helped a lot. And I got a little bit of help of Tennis South Africa in the beginning, but where I really needed it, I was lucky and fortunate enough that I had somebody, Bruce Davidson, that found me some sponsors. But if it wasn't for him, I would probably not be here today. But, that's just me. But, other players, we need that sort of Tennis South Africa to come through and help and find sponsors and develop the whole tennis game in South Africa and get international tournaments going. And that's the way forward to be able to get some more players out there, make them compete and feel like they get that international exposure.
Okay, well, you've set up a couple of things for our panel discussion now. Thanks to Jeff Coetzee, playing in London at the moment. He's one of our South African top players. Well, here to talk about developing tennis in South Africa is Holger Losch, who's board member of Tennis South Africa and the director of Wheelchair Tennis South Africa. We've got Denton Mainches, who is head coach of JL's Tennis Academy. Michelle Whitehead from Growing Tennis. And in the studio with the other two men is Tammy Day, who is co-founder of Proactive Tennis Group. Let's start with you, Holger. We start with the official, the guy who's on Tennis South Africa. Jeff happened to mention there not enough players coming through. And as someone who watches tennis, who's played a bit of tennis at club level, I always am fascinated. We've got the best weather. We used to have a lot of young players coming up. Tennis, the South African Open, was regarded as the fifth Grand Slam in many ways for a while. We seem to have gone backwards in the status of tennis in South Africa.
Yes, we've had a really tough road over the last, in my opinion, about 30 years. So we've had 30 years of decay in the sport. We've had a few ups in that period, so exciting news coming through sort of in bits and bobs over those 30 years. But the real work is really ahead of us, I could say. We can obviously delve into the past a bit and see what's gone wrong. But
well, there are a lot of sports that they only survive because of television, and there are lots of sports that don't survive because they don't look good on television. One thinks of a sport like squash, which compared to tennis doesn't work really well on television. But tennis is a good TV sport, so there should be money coming in, but we don't seem to have enough of it.
Yes, I think tennis is a global leader in sports, and it's got a huge advantages in terms of equal participation in men and women and also age groups. And I think we need to also maybe separate a bit the business of tennis into the participation of the sport, and I think that's also a unique attribute, where if you look at a grandstand in a tennis event, you'd say at 80 to 90% of those people watching actually participate in the sport, where most other sports watched on a grand scale like that is a very low participation base. You're looking at about 20%. So I think we have to look in the South African context and really fix that sport on the grassroots level. When I say grassroots, I mean right across that spectrum. Guys entering the sport, getting regular activity in the sport, and then obviously on your top pinnacle, those top players internationally, give them that kind of support. But they're expensive to fund, so it's a bit of a give and take in that situation, and we need those events.
Going to come back to what you're going to do, but Tammy, let's bring you in here from Proactive, I think. What's your perspective? You run an academy, you run training and so on?
Yes, we run training. We work with a lot of different players, and the the best part for me about working with the sport is seeing kids, adults, anybody can play the game. I mean, you say yourself you enjoyed it, and you enjoy it every day still, you know, when you can play. And I see kids on the court that no matter whether they're good or they're not, you know, they always find some form of confidence from the game, because it's such a multi-sensory, complex sport that, you know, they find some form of improvement and then they find some form of achievement. And if you can boost confidence in every single player, you know, when they leave the court, whether they achieved anything, whether they lost 6-love or whether they kicked everybody off the court, it's great for the human being, you know, to carry on and be a success in life. So, you know, if we can promote that, also learning in a group environment helps boost everybody's confidence and how to be a more successful human being. So that's what Proactive is trying to do, is we're trying to get not just the top players involved, but everybody. You know, everybody gets a chance to play, and then you get your corporates involved, because, you know, somebody who's doing something all day long behind a desk wants to be out on the court. They want to enjoy the environment, you know, and they want to start playing, you know, having fun, and then they say, hey, you know, we might want to invest something in this sport.
Just give us a big picture of what Proactive is. I mean, how many people are involved? Who's funding it? How successful is it?
We're a group of about 10 coaches. We've got a couple of silent partners. We've got a couple of big corporate sponsors that are helping us out with all the events that we're running. Irene Country Club is our main base, and it's beautiful there. It's almost like an American country club setup. So it's got so much potential for a big tennis setup to start up. You know, a lot of corporate people play there as well. So you've got this wonderful mix of everybody that can actually boost the sport in South Africa. So we're trying to start something along those lines, having some good coaches working on the sport, and also a lot of tennis players and people that are interested that would have some funds to come in.
So again, we have the picture of interest in the sport. A lot of people involved. When you do try and get something going, there is a response. Denton, your perspective on this, and where do you fit into tennis?
Currently, I'm coaching at Midstream College for John Lavney de Jager, the Davis Cup captain at the moment. So I'm working with a lot of the top juniors and some of the top girls at the moment in South Africa. And I think a lot of the stuff is that people don't watch it at the moment here in South Africa is because there's not that many players out there. Now, I think the way to get it off the ground is the fun stuff that Tammy and them trying to do. They've got a thing that they have Wimbeldon and Irene. And you get stuff like, if you look at the American colleges and you look at the world team tennis that the Americans hold, you actually go to tennis and it's not a quiet, stiff sport, but where people actually get excited. It's more fun to watch. The versions of the game is a little bit shorter, so people get into it a little bit more. I think people don't always have a perspective of what Davis Cup and tennis is outside South Africa. I mean, people get really rowdy. It's like a soccer game going to, and people really enjoy the tennis. And I think if people get into that culture, yeah. And also got to remember, we've got rugby, cricket, so a lot of talent's going into those areas, and netball and hockey and stuff. And then tennis is getting a part of the talent, but also that the management of the little bit of the talent that is there, that is not always there. I mean, if we look at the scheduling of some of our juniors that are coming now, there's a couple of good juniors. Like the girls actually look into a very healthy situation at this moment. The junior girls. So if you can look at a couple of those girls and you take care of them with their schedule, you try to help them where they promote with these the fun things that Tammy and them are doing with the Wimbeldon Day, and you get more people involved. I think the previous Davis Cup with Monaco was a huge success at the Irene Tennis Club, and there was a lot of mid-streamers that came there as well because of that area. I think it's a great area for tennis at the moment.
Right, well, let's bring in Michelle Whitehead, who is in Cape Town. Michelle, you've been listening to the discussion here, and it seems to me there's no shortage of interest. Maybe one of the problems is that we don't have a superstar, and I think tennis and golf are similar in many ways. A lot of people play them and watch them, unlike rugby, for example, where a lot of guys get injured very early or give up. And you can play it till an old age if you want to carry on playing tennis or golf. We've got superstars on the world circuit in golf, but we don't really have tennis players, do we?
There are a lot of young junior girls, specifically, and boys that are coming through. But the area where I'm working is at very basic grassroots in all the black, currently disadvantaged schools.
Tell us about those schools and how it works.
Where major funding is required. Because one, we have to find young people to train as coaches, and secondly, none of these schools have sport in their curriculum, and we also don't have facilities at schools, so we are literally teaching ball skills and the basics of play and stay, which is an ITF initiative, on sand and broken up tar pitches.
Well, obviously, Michelle, that's not going to get very far. So, I mean, it keeps people busy, but it's not going to develop the sport or the individuals really beyond a certain level. So are you saying that it's a hopeless task?
No, it's not a hopeless task. One has to, especially in the black communities where we want to see players coming through, we have to develop a love of a sport, and we want to develop a love of tennis. So it really is about bringing ball skills in, doing mini tennis, creating fun ITF, what we call the play and stay, and having red balls, green ball, orange ball competitions to make it really exciting, and for these children to want to play tennis above maybe soccer in the afternoons.
Yep.
And that is the biggest challenge. We've got 27,000 schools in South Africa that we potentially could go in and do something.
Holger, I'm going to come back to you. I saw one of our straps there, as we call them, saying there's a 10-year plan for South African tennis. South Africa's full of plans, but tell us a little bit about this plan and how you're going to do things differently to get out of what you call that 30-year period where things weren't working.
Well, I think the 10-year plan is really still in its building phase, so we are hoping to announce that in August, September. And obviously it's very important, the critical component is the implementation of that plan. I think the key factors here, tennis has got a clean bill of health in terms of the audited for the last 10 years. So the business of the tennis is on a good side. We need a new strategy. We've involved all the role players in the sport in a very open and engaged fashion, which hasn't happened in tennis for a long time. And I think that is a critical component to this plan of development. And as everybody's mentioned, there's so many good components to the sport out there. It's for us to lay that platform, and we've got to do it on all spheres of tennis. If you leave out a spoke on a wheel, the wheel's going to collapse. So we've got to do that on all spheres of tennis, including the giving opportunities to the top players. That's by hosting enough tournaments in our local area on the international scene, and for the juniors right back to that level, to give that foundation and growth on a locals perspective. That's the bottom line that's missing right now in our picture. If you're in Europe, you can hop on a train, you can go to 6 different countries in a space of a few hours. We don't have those opportunities. So we cannot rely on our neighbors to assist us in this. We need to build that whole foundation locally.
I hear murmurs of agreement here from the
At
panel.
the moment, I have a girl training at the Giles Academy, Ilse Hatting, and I mean, from her background, they can't afford all the payments and stuff, because if you look at what it cost her between 500,000 to $1 million a year to go play tournaments and get up to the level that she was. She got to top 50, but that's also from the help from Tennis South Africa, that's the help from the Matchpoint Foundation, but there's still so much stuff that she needs to pay for, and when they reach a certain age, then it's kind of a cut-off date with that stuff, because then they've got to start earning their own money to keep going forward. So our job is to keep looking for that potential and keep helping the kids get out there, but it is so tough with the amount of money that it takes for us, because like Holger mentioned, in Europe there's so many tournaments around us. Now there's a lot of talk about maybe more futures in South Africa, and if that happens, it already will give us our players advantage to get up higher on the ranking list, and when they're high on the ranking list they can start earning more money, they'll be able to travel more, we can get more players on the tour.
Jamie?
I used to be one of those players. I was traveling, and I was literally making my paycheck, day to day, by winning a match. Losing a match was the end of the world. So that pressure for South African, I mean, I totally understand what Ilse is going through that you're talking about, because it's not just, okay, you've got backing like all the other girls that you're playing against. It's, this is whether I get to go and hop on a plane and get to the next tournament or not. And also, you're so far away from home. All those other girls that are traveling in the States, they can hop on a plane, $200, and they're back home for a week. Whereas in South Africa,
everywhere's a long way away.
Yes, you can't make your base in South Africa, because there are so many tournaments that are so far away, and the good circuits are Europe, America. South America has some pretty good tournaments as well and good circuits, but hopping on a plane there is tough, and traveling throughout Africa is also it's risky, especially for the women to travel by themselves. Having a coach as well traveling with you, it doubles your costs, so it's almost a no-brainer that you can't do it, as a South African.
Well, let's get Michelle back in, and it struck me watching Wimbledon, Michelle, that they were talking, the commentators, about Australian tennis, and that there are very few Australian native-born Australians, if you like, who've come through. But a lot of Eastern European immigrants going to Australia are now playing and representing Australia. And there just seems this never-ending stream of South American tennis players and Eastern European and Russian tennis players. What are they doing that a country like ours, which, as Tammy says, is far from everywhere, what are they doing to produce this production line of top players when we've got the best weather in the world, as just to have one of those advantages we have?
I don't think the weather plays the major part. I think Australia initiated a government-funded program about 12 years ago, and they put millions into developing sport in schools. And across that board, they've developed a handful of really, really good players that have been able to come through. So that grassroots development is so massive and absolutely imperative for just the basic development of body coordination and sporting ability before any higher technical skills can be taught. And that's what we're lacking in this country at the moment. It's just not initiated at the grassroots level, and you can't start at the top of a pyramid. One needs to start at the bottom and build on a broad base, and then take your selected top players out of that.
Holger, it sounds like money's the problem. I mean, people know what to do, and you can learn from what other countries are doing. I'm still fascinated by this Eastern European production line. What are they doing? It's not just money, surely, or is it?
Well, any performance in anything from business to a sport like tennis is various factors, and various factors have to come together to become a superstar in a sport specifically like tennis. So obviously finances or opportunities, access to opportunities is a major factor to that. The second is the hunger of the players, and that often is stimulated by a clear vision of the path to get there. And I think that's, in some of the countries, is very clear, and with us in the last 20, 30 years, that was very unclear. It wasn't structured, and that's where a lot of players have really battled. We have had a long line of decay in that, so what happens further is it's not just the players that don't have that clear vision, it's often the coaches don't have the clear vision and all of that. And I'm not singling out anybody in this saying they're not doing a good job. I'm just saying it's difficult to see that path if you haven't had the access to travel out there and see it. Coming back to the money, there's never enough money. I think we'll always have this debate. If we have to compete to the LTA, the British Lawn Tennis Association, with access to Wimbeldon, the Australian model, not just with the government funding, but even having these Grand Slam countries get a huge cash injection every year just from the profits from those Grand Slams. And the national associations own that, not the ITF, the International Tennis Federation.
I'm sorry, we'll have to stop there. It's a subject which has so many dimensions, but I think by having the discussion, it raises the profile of the sport again and perhaps attract some attention of people who'd like to get involved.